Hi everyone, I hope you are well. Thank you for joining us here at Honey Hill. It's been a minute since we filmed a video. A lot has happened in the world, a lot has happened in our lives since then, and we thought, why not during a record-breaking heat wave in our area, 111-degree temperatures in June, film a garden tour. We will be taking you through, I think, a multi-part process of our garden. This is our home that I designed and we built in 2018. We started everything from scratch, literally. This garden is really only 2 years old. There are a few plants in here I did plant 3 years ago, but most are 2, if not even 1 year old. So this is a fresh garden. I did line the driveway with, I believe this is Rocket Man Russian Sage, and if I have the variety wrong, I'll try to pop it on the screen. Over here in the corner, I have a Limelight Hydrangea Standard, which is leaning a little bit from our incredibly high wind we have up here. And this is a Munstead Wood David Austin Rose, which just went out of bloom. Over here, I have my glorious stand of delphiniums. Delphiniums are one of my favorite flowers. I have a lot of favorites, but they are one of my top favorites, and I plant them wherever I can, and I love the effect of this big drift of them. I don't know the variety of this one, but it's glorious. It was from kind of mystery English seed that I bought at the Rosarium Garden Center in Spokane, Washington, who grow beautiful roses, and also she will sometimes have starts of her English delphiniums. Along the path, I have some salvia, lavender, and I have dotted around a lot in my garden geranium Roseanne. And I just planted this spring. This is a new plant that I've dotted around for the froth, and for that rich maroon color is this Sanguisorba, which is kind of an older flower in the garden, but I love its English romantic quality. On this side of the path, I've lined it, and also in this corner, with little lime hydrangeas. And this is a new perennial that I popped in this year, which I think is one of my favorite varieties of Gaura I've ever seen. I believe it's called Rosie Jane, and just love her. She has this beautiful pink edging to her petals. I have some baby 1-year-old own root roses, as well as some bare root roses that I planted all fresh this spring. This border was actually quite narrow, and I just expanded it and did this curve this spring. I have some Coco Locos, some Honey Dijon, and a Silver Linings rose. So I also have lots of roses in this bed which have come out of bloom. Right here, if you want to come take a look over here, I have a spray rose named Penelope for our daughter Penelope. And then this rose right here is a David Austin called Crocus. I have lots of Coco Loco roses in here, little baby ones, some older ones, but most of them are out of bloom, although there is one over here looking beautiful. I will show you her blooms, and she's kind of dancing with this campanula here. Why don't you come take a look? And by the door, and she's looking a little bit stressed, like she needs some more water, I have a Limelight Hydrangea. This was actually one of the first plants I planted at the house. With this incredible June heat wave, kind of the focus of the garden has shifted just to keeping everything watered and alive, which is very stressful for a gardener. In the back, I have a multi-trunk Royal Raindrops crabapple, which was just planted this spring. Behind the crabapple tree, there is a wisteria and a row of hollyhocks, which came from my mom's garden, some hybridized seed, and last year those reached up to 14 feet tall. On this side of the path, lots more geranium. This is a new planting which I'm obsessed with, This is Geranium Phaeum Roseanne, and I've dotted her around. I picked her up at a local plant sale this spring at the Manitou Park plant sale. And this, if you remember from my video from last year, is the Summer Berries Yarrow, which I started from seed last year, planted it in a lot of places in the garden, and it's boomed. It's gone crazy, and in fact almost thuggish, and I need to thin it out a little bit. Up here by the front door is my David Austin Teasing Georgia Climber. She just had a beautiful flush of bloom, and I deadheaded her last night, but she is this lovely buttery yellow color. Something I've noticed this season over previous seasons is that my rose blooms are a little bit smaller than normal, and not all of the roses, but some, and I wonder if it is the heat and the strange weather that we've had, actually extreme cold, then heat. So this is a new rose from this year called Silver Linings, and I'm trialing it out. I planted 2 of them, one here and one there. She blooms well. I got her to be kind of similar to one of my favorite roses, Stainless Steel, and I do love Stainless Steel more. She has a better fragrance and a better form, but this one is definitely prolific. I can see them right now. We've had a terrible issue with earwigs this year, and I've never had earwigs like this in my garden ever before, and they are just demolishing my roses as well as the deer. So all of my roses, they don't have powdery mildew. I have to spray them every few days with liquid fence to keep the deer away because they've been pretty ravenous this season and doing a lot of damage in the garden. So I'll go over some of those methods that I use to try to keep the deer at bay, what we're gonna do to try to moderate the earwig population in the garden in future videos. Here are Cosmos. This is probably Apricot Lemonade, also from last year, that has self-sown and returned. Haven't sowed any of this year. Another about to bloom Iceland Poppy that overwintered from last year. At the back I have, I think, the first rose I planted, which was a David Austin Princess Alexandra of Kent. She also was just deadheaded, but she is a beautiful, solid performer in my garden. Even after the first year I planted her, the deer came through my garden that fall and mowed her almost down to the ground. Same with Queen of Sweden, who is next to her, not in bloom right now, and they've both thrived, thank goodness. In the front, I have a lot of David Austins that are not in bloom. We will go over those when they do. I have, I believe this one here is Litchfield Angel. All of this chocolate lace flower, the Dara, also self-sown from last year. That's going to be what you keep hearing from me because I didn't sow any annual seeds direct this season, and just kind of what I did was in the early spring, I came outside, I tried to identify what I recognized as seedlings and what I recognized as weeds, took out the weeds and left the flowers to grow wherever they found themselves to be happiest. I did a little thinning if things looked pretty thick, which brings me over to this gorgeous stand of Larkspur, which is self-sown. I direct seeded the Larkspur in early spring of 2020, and I got in the back, I got a few kind of measly plants and was a little bit disappointed. And then this year, boom, they just have seeded themselves and taken off, and I just love it. In the back, we had the same huge drift of the amazing gray Shirley poppies and the Pandora Shirley poppies, which have gone over because that is the sunniest location in my garden, and I will be letting them set seed for next year and then taking out the brown unattractive stalks. So over here I have the Kwanzan cherry tree, and it bloomed beautifully this spring. I planted it last spring, so this is only its second season in the garden. It's put a good 12 inches up to maybe 24 inches of growth in the last year, and it has thankfully tolerated our incredibly high winds that we have up here on this hilltop. We just get beat down with wind up here, and so to find a tree that's that has stood so strongly is really quite a pleasure. And all throughout here I have lots more roses, which I will be doing a separate video going over the roses when they're in bloom, and there's a lot more to see. And then we are going to be coming out with a second video going over the rest of the flower garden around the house, our fenced-in kitchen garden in the back, and then this spring we just dug out our backyard and are doing a new terraced area for our backyard, which we are so excited to show you guys. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.